Alright, this is the bump circuit race, men's P1-2. It's not just another four-corner crit, you guys, so actually I wanted to take a minute to talk about the course because it plays a major factor in the race. So it's 4.5 laps on this mostly exposed loop with pretty strong wind in this direction. It's got rolling hills, and the longest climb is probably about 3 minutes, I want to say, at 7 or 8%. And that's right here on the course. Also, the finishing like 100 meters or so, maybe 150 meters, is up this steep ramp, also called the bump. That's why it's called the bump, and it's really steep. It's probably, I don't know, like 12 or 15%. All right, so what's the situation on the road? So at this point, there's a solo rider off the front. It was a really fast and aggressive start. So this one Olympic Club guy, he got away really early on in the race. And actually, my teammate and I, there's only two of us in this race, we let him go because honestly, Olympic Club was kind of beating up on everybody with really solid attack, counterattack, and everyone was just tired of chasing. Plus, solo attacks on a difficult course like this and like a storm like this with a lot of wind and rain, just a lot less threatening than a group. It's just so hard to stay away by yourself for so long. So eventually this chase group emerged, and even though it contained 4 of the solo Olympic Club guys' teammates, who obviously aren't going to be doing any work, they're not going to chase their teammate who's still up the road with probably a, I don't want to say 45-second gap at this point. There's 5 others in this group, including myself, who will be chasing, who should be chasing because there's a guy up the road. Everyone's losing the race at this point. I'm pretty content with this composition because, well, basically it's 5 versus 1. So I start rotating at the front, and it doesn't take me very long to realize that actually the other 4 guys that I'm with, who should be chasing, don't really have any interest in chasing the single Olympic Club guy up the road. And if I could, I would have tried to go across by myself, but it's like 45 seconds, and it's just not possible for me to do that. I'm needing the help of at least a few of the guys out of this group of 5 to help me close it down. And I know what you're thinking. Why would these guys help tow me to the line and chase down this single rider? It's no secret that I have a sprint. I mean, I make videos about it. But here's the thing. We're all racing for second right now. And on top of that, they have to deal with a sprinter. If we work to catch the guy up the road, then we're racing for first, and they have to deal with a more tired sprinter because I've made it clear I'm going to do the majority of the work by taking these monster poles. What I was asking for from the other guys is just to rotate through, keep the pace high, not necessarily take a long pull on the front or really bury themselves. See, the key to effectively chasing back a breakaway is just consistency. And at this point, I thought that we were going to be a lot more functional as a chase group. It's 5 versus 1 after all. And the way I saw this going is the other 4 guys in this group who had really an obligation to chase the guy up the road. I thought that they were going to pull through, like I said, keep a consistent pace, but force me to do a lot more work, which I was fine with. And I thought that would result in, a counterattack going on the hill or in the crosswind where I would get dropped. That's kind of the way I saw this going. But instead, it seemed like everyone was just content racing for second, which for the life of me, I can't understand. But now I'm not going to be doing work on the front. If nobody else is, I can't single-handedly close this down. So now they're racing for second, and they have to deal with me, a sprinter, who isn't going to be doing any work if they're not doing any work. So I thought, well, maybe they're tired, and they had to do a lot more work to join this chase group or something like that. So a little later on, I put in this probing attack, and I was just enthusiastically chased back immediately. So yeah, I don't get it. And I came up next to Chris and his Olympic Club teammates in this group and congratulated them on the win and thought, maybe I can still sneak out second place. But I was still worried about getting dropped in the crosswinds or getting dropped on the climb in particular, because the climb had kind of a tail crosswind to it. So actually, I kind of use this trick. If you're a guy like me, not so great at climbing, or maybe if you're just a bigger guy and you have to deal with much faster climbers, First, before the climb starts, get to the front using the tips I talked about in my Cal Aggie video. I'll link it right here. And then when the climb starts, just get to the very front and set tempo. And especially in this case where there's a kind of a tail crosswind, there's really no penalty for being out of the draft, for being on the front, because there isn't a draft when you're on the front in this case. And then set a tempo that you're comfortable with. And if people attack, if people want to come around you, that's fine. Let them. The idea is you can set this pace that you're comfortable with to the top of the climb, consistent. And as climbers attack, you don't have to respond to big accelerations or changes in speed. And if you do it right, you'll filter towards the back of the group. Because you started at the front and you finished at the back, you'll maintain contact with the group over the top of the climb, but you've kept it kind of within your limits, and you're not really burning too many matches to get over the climb. And this is a trick I wish I could claim as my own, but actually this is a tactic that Tom Boonen used as a much bigger rider to maintain contact on some of the more climby classics races. Alright, so here we are, last few Ks of this race, and we still have to deal with this about 3-minute climb at maybe 7 or 8%, and then obviously the bump for the finishing 150 meters. Most of it's a really tough kind of tail crosswind too, as I mentioned before. But we're racing for second. That guy has actually probably already finished by now. He is way up the road. And yeah, congrats to Morgan, congrats to Olympic Club. They raced a hell of a race and well-deserved win. But I still want second, and that's actually going to be kind of hard because I have these other 4 guys, these other 4 non-Olympic Club guys who haven't done a whole lot of work, and then I have the Olympic Club guys who obviously have done 0 work, so I know it's going to be really tough to stay in contact with them over the climb and then to out-sprint. So these 2 riders on the right, they just sort of sneak away, and the Olympic Club guy in front of me, he's not going to close this down. He's going to let it open up because he's got a teammate. And I kind of make a mistake. I should have responded to this sooner, but all of a sudden it was like they noticed their gap and then they started riding really hard. So I have to put in this pretty hard effort shortly before the end of the race, but more importantly, shortly before the tough 3-minute climb where I'm worried I'm going to get dropped. So I make sure that when I close this down, I am all the way to the left-hand side of the road. Notice how I'm like almost on the center line, and that's because there's a strong right-to-left wind. And hey, if I'm doing hard work on the front, I don't want people to get a free ride riding in my draft. Alright, so as I make the catch, I am just waiting for the Olympic Club counterattack because that's a predictable move. If you have a teammate up the road and somebody else is chasing it, once they catch, the counterattack is almost inevitable. And yeah, I just want to remain in contact with this group, feel confident in my sprint, but I just can't get dropped on this climb, and then boom. This is the real one. This is the big counter. I just have to close this down. And this is a really hard effort, you guys. This is a tailwind climb, and after a couple of hours in the wind and the rain, you really feel big efforts like this. But I can't let this go. There's nobody behind who is going to chase this down. So this is second place right here, and I have to stay in contact with him. Alright, so I get on his wheel, we crest this hill, we have a monster gap behind us, it's us 2 now, and this is the huge mistake that this Olympic Club rider makes, is he is all the way to the right-hand side of the road here, and it is a pretty strong crosswind, so I'm benefiting from a pretty solid draft right here, even though we're still going up maybe 2 or 3%. This is a really good draft, and he just keeps mashing the pedals. He should be all the way to the left, making me do just as much work as he's doing. And the other thing that he could have done to drop me is, instead of just continuing to ride hard through here, is he should have waited. There's one more little ramp before we make a right-hand turn to the finishing straight. He should have just been going easy right here, again, all the way to the left-hand side of the road, done one more really hard attack over that last little riser before the right-hand turn. That probably would have dropped me too. So I'm just sitting pretty right here, and I am glued to his wheel, getting a good draft, recovering a little bit before the sprint. Alright, so after forcing him to ride on the front for the last few minutes, I was able to sit in the draft, recover for just a little bit, and my plan is to only come out of the draft and only hit the wind when it matters most, when I'm crossing the finish line. And even though my rear wheel slips a little bit as I sprint on the wet paint, I'm able to come around him and secure second place. So thanks for watching, guys. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, and if you want to see more, go ahead and click subscribe.